Hi, my name is Abby Rincon. I'm an instructor at City College of San Francisco.
And I'm Tim Berthold, and I'm also an instructor at City College of San Francisco. And we wanted to talk a little bit today about the challenge of self-disclosure. And that's when a CHW or another healthcare provider or a social service provider shares something personal about themselves with a client. Something about their own identity or their own experience, maybe a chronic condition that they have. And it's a really sort of tricky and challenging concept, and one which you might hear a lot of conflicting ideas about.
Yeah, the big lesson here is that there are no hard and fast rules about self-disclosure. It's one of these situations that you're going to have to assess to see, does it make sense to share my own background as a community health worker with the client? Will it help? Will it aid in this situation for me to give them the right services? Yeah. It may or it may not. So we can't say it's always good to do, and we can't say it's never good to do. You just have to trust yourself and know that you don't want to self-disclose just for the purpose of immediate bonding with the client. You want to disclose when it makes sense to do, because that might be an opportunity for the client to think, wow, this person really can empathize because they've been in that situation, so I can feel more comfortable.
Sometimes CHWs disclose something about themselves when clients are going through something that's difficult or painful or highly stigmatized, when they may have been rejected by their families because they're gay or transgender, when they're coming home from prison, when they've been newly diagnosed with cancer or HIV disease. Yeah. And what we say about self-disclosure in those moments is, if you're going to do it, keep it really brief and direct. Right. You might say something like, I was in prison too, or I have HIV too, but not go on and say more about, and let me tell you about my story, right, and this happened and that happened, because then you're taking over the session. And it becomes about your experience and your story and your beliefs, and those aren't relevant here. What's relevant is the experience of the client. But sometimes just by saying something brief, you can help them feel a little bit more at ease, a little bit more comfortable disclosing the important things about their life.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the other just comment that I want to make to that is that sometimes when a client does say something and you relate to it, they might come back and say, well, tell me what happened, what did you do? And so they do want those details. And again, as was mentioned, you can say a little bit, but you don't really want to, it's not your time to tell your story. It's your time to listen and hear what the client has to say. So that's the other point of balance of, if you do disclose, maybe the client might want to know more.
And you want to, in that moment, I think, sort of shift the conversation back. And you can even say something like, you know, it isn't about my experience, but can I ask you more about what your experience was?
Yes.
And the last thing that I would say is, seek consultation about this. We all have maybe slightly different styles or beliefs about self-disclosure. So talk to your colleagues, talk to senior CHWs, and talk to your supervisor about it to make sure that if you are disclosing, you're doing it in a brief way that is in the best interest of the client, and that you're not doing it in a way, you know, that's really for yourself and that could make the session about you and be potentially risky to the client.